Hey friends, before the episode begins, we have an exciting announcement to make. We are officially having our first ever podcast cruise.
Yay!
If you are interested in sailing with us and sailing with lots of other fun DCL podcast friends and family, you can join us on the July 18th to 23rd, 2026 sailing on the Disney Destiny. Knock out that brand new ship. Christy, where can our listeners go to book this sailing?
You can reach out to me at Christy@packyourpixiedoes.com. You can go to my website and go to the contact me section, and there's a form you can fill out and just give your information, and we'll reach out and we'll get you booked. This is a 5-night Caribbean cruise to Cozumel and to Castaway Cay, 2 sea days, which is exciting.
Yes, we are so excited. We are so excited to welcome you all aboard the Destiny with us. So we do hope that you consider joining us for this sailing. As we said, we are still working through the nitty-gritty of the details, but reach out to Christy to book, or if for whatever reason you are booked on this sailing or have booked this sailing, reach out to just let us know that you want to be part of the group. We will definitely be doing different meetups through the lounges. It's going to be just a genuinely, absolutely great time. So we hope you consider joining us. And with that, we will be on to the show.
Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL Podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and I am joined by my co-host, Christy. Christy, how are we today?
Hi, Lake. It's been a minute, I feel like, since we've recorded together.
Yeah, it really has. We're kind of bouncing between vacations right now. You're on one, I'm on one, you're on 2 more.
Seems fitting.
I get stuck super busy at work.
Same. Also stuck super busy at work at times. So yeah, it's nice to see your face again.
You as well, which is funny because I will see you tonight, which will be a lovely time.
I know.
We're all meeting
excited
with podcast friends at Yacht, or I guess we're meeting at Boardwalk, but we're all in the Boardwalk Yacht Club area tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
I am looking forward to it. And then one of our friends is hopping on a cruise tomorrow, which is not the cruise we're here to talk about, but to segue that into cruising, we do have an exciting episode, a guest that people love to come on board. Her food opinions are of top quality, as always. And with that, we would like to welcome back Bethany Vinton to the show. Bethany, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me back. I love this show so much, so it makes me excited.
Well, we love having you on here. Before we get started, why don't you go ahead and just let our listeners know where they can follow you at?
Yeah, I cover Disney food and drink mainly, but I do a lot of Disney Cruise Line stuff because once you get the bug, you're there. So you can follow me on all my social media. I'm at Bethany Vinton.
And you're
Good.
YouTubing now.
I am. There will be a video live today, the first cruise video. I got that edited. I was very proud of myself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that.
I will make sure that gets put into the show notes as well of this episode for our listeners. But why don't we go ahead with what cruise did you book and who sailed with you?
Yeah, I booked a 4-night on the Disney Fantasy to Disney's 2 private islands. I actually booked this one back in 2023 when those those bookings went on sale because I wanted to get to the new private island. And this time we actually had 2 staterooms. I cruised with my mom, who is like my trusty partner in cruising. She loves it so much. And we had a connecting stateroom with my neighbors. They have never been on a cruise before. This was their first ever cruise, Max and Carrie. So my mom, my neighbors, Max and Carrie, we had 2 staterooms, had a good time. And it was a nice mix of people, you know?
So you did a connecting stateroom with your adult neighbors? You know, I feel like we've never had a situation like that they weren't like family members or what. How did that work? How did you guys feel with the door? Give us all the details.
You know, I've traveled with them a lot before. We've gone on a lot of Disney trips. We've done Disney World and Disneyland, so I know we travel well together. We were on deck 10, and it was actually interesting because we had the connecting staterooms, but the balcony on our deck was the solid wall. So we couldn't, which like we were excited about because Max and I are early risers. We were like, we'll go sit and have coffee. And we found ourselves having to sneak through each other's room. But to be frank, I really liked it. For the most part, we pretty much kept the door closed until we were like going to do something. We weren't in the room a ton. And I was giving them the like, do you want to build a snowman knock every single time where I would sing to them. But I actually really liked having connecting staterooms with them. It was nice. It was easy when we needed to do things. Everybody was right there. Every other time that I've cruised with people, I've been on like different decks and, someone's in the front of the ship and someone's in the after ship. So this was really nice to just conveniently be located next to each other. And I found it got us to things on time. Because if I had to like go search for them, we would have never been on time for anything.
That makes sense. It is convenient. So obviously the connecting door is convenient for that reason. But even if you're planning a cruise with other people, to even be in the same elevator bank, or if it's like the midship elevators with the forward, they're so close to each other, it doesn't really matter. But to have somebody like, I think Lake, our last cruise together, you were all the way forward or aft. We were the opposite ends of the ship, whatever those ends might have been. And it's a haul sometimes to get to the other cabins. And it's easier to just be nice and located.
I'm excited for my fantasy sailing because by pure coincidence and maybe a great minds thinks alike type of deal, Steve and I ended up 2 doors down from each other.
It's amazing.
Which is so funny because it was not planned at all.
So funny. So one thing about your balcony door to keep in mind, if you're ever in a situation where you want to know if they will open, you can call Disney Cruise Line and ask if it's a fire door, if there's a fire door in between your cabin and the one you're connecting with. If you're on the other side of the fire door, you will not be able to have those doors open up. And it's not always 100% certainty that you'd be able to do it, but you're 100% not doing it if you're on 2 different sides of the fire door.
Well, turning it back to this sailing, first off, this 4-night on the Fantasy with the Lookout and Castaway is like everyone's favorite sailing right now. Yeah. Regardless of if it's the Fantasy, there are some dream sailings that are this, but even from requests to come on the podcast, a lot of this 4-night, Lookout Castaway sailing, this is definitely a cruiser favorite right now.
And I get why.
Definitely preferable to a Nassau stop. Yeah, so why don't we start from the beginning? How did you get to the port, and did you do any pre-night stays, which is usually a signature Bethany?
It is. I did, in fact, come down. I came down 2 days early, actually. Our cruise took off Wednesday, and I came down Monday, mainly to try to catch the last day of Festival of the Arts. However, it like downpoured that whole night. I was you won't catch me in Epcot at that point. It's too rainy. But we did stay 2 nights at Pop Century, which, was a great place to rest our head. I'm not mad at it. It was just where my neighbors actually flew down Tuesday. So we flew down Monday. They flew down Tuesday. And it was like, where's a cheap spot? Because they're just going to essentially fly in and get on the ship the next morning. So we stayed at Pop. We did take the Disney transfer again. I just feel it's so easy if you're staying on property where they come and take your bags. I literally never want to see my luggage. And I just feel like it works so well. This was the first time, too, that at like 7 a.m. they were knocking down the door asking for our bags. This was the first time I had that happen. Usually we leave the room before that happens, but it was nice. And we had a 9:45 meeting point at the lobby. So not super early for a 10:15 departure. So it wasn't bad at all. And then we were on the good old transfer to Port Canaveral.
About what time did you get to Port Canaveral?
We got there a little after 11:30.
Are your neighbors first-time cruisers, first-time Disney cruisers?
They're first-time cruisers in general. They had never cruised before. I had told them a year and a half ago that I had booked this trip, and they're like, can we come? And I was like, of course you can come. So that was just their spontaneous thing. Max had always said he never wanted to cruise. Like he never wanted to go on a cruise ever in his life, and somehow was very convinced. And I think my other neighbor, Carrie, was just convinced, like she was worried she was going to get seasick. So this was their first cruise. And so I kind of also wanted to walk them through the basics of Disney Cruise Line and not like a advanced cruiser. I wanted to keep everything as, simple as possible so they really could fully understand Disney Cruise Line.
What did you guys book before the cruise?
We did no excursions just because I hadn't been to the new island and Castaway. I like to be lazy. But when it came to dining, we booked Palo brunch, Palo dinner, Prima Notte, and the mixology class.
And so with Palo brunch, did you book it as a 2 and then add it, make it a 4? Did you make it a 4 on the ship?
Yes. So when we got on the ship, I had kind of asked around and nobody really knew the answer. And I had texted my friend that had been on the Fantasy. I was like, so where do I go to modify our adult dining? And he was like, deck 2 at Enchanted Garden outside. And so we went down there and I said, hey, can we get these 2 added to our brunch reservation? They pulled it up and 30 seconds later they were added.
Yeah. So for the listeners, basically, if you have somebody who is a Castaway Club member already, has been on multiple Disney cruises, they get to book that those activities and dining, adult dining in advance. So if you have a reservation for 2, not always, but many times you could go to the dining meeting location, wherever that happens to be. It's like in Luna or Triton's rather, on the Wish and the Treasure. And then I think it is an Enchanted Garden on the other ships. It wouldn't be on the Magic and the Wonder. You'll just have to ask. And then they can see if they can put you in there, which is great.
And it was nice. I mean, it worked so well for us this time around.
Prima Notte. I can't wait to talk about that again. I'm going to Prima Notte in 4 days. I'm very excited about that.
You can tell Ken I said hi. So
I am very excited. I have Steve on board to try to book Prima Notte when we are back on the fantasy in September. But keeping it on track, so you and your friends get to the port. What was your embarkation process like? And what did your neighbors think of like the embarkation, and how was that feeling of boarding their first Disney Cruise Line ship?
So the embarkation process was so easy. By the time we got there and we got through security, it wasn't that crowded. Obviously, like they paced out those, transfers pretty well. We were all in boarding group 6 this time around. And by the time we got through security and upstairs, had already been called. So we were like, perfect, let's get on the ship. And, I think the welcome to Disney Cruise Line of like, Disney Cruise Line, welcome aboard the Figueroa family. They were like both crying. They were like, this is amazing. And I think that's like such a nice touch on Disney Cruise Line that you don't get anywhere else. But it was the most seamless process of getting on the ship. Like we had no time to kind of like pause and do anything. Anybody was like, you got to go to the bathroom, we're waiting because we can get on the ship already. And that was the whole goal, was just to get on as quickly as possible because they were very excited.
So you're the expert giving your neighbors the grand tour. I like to talk about how everyone has their idea embarkation day. Where are you taking first-time cruisers once you get on board?
So like I have this area on the Fantasy that I like to go to every single time. And even though the Dream and them are sister ships, they don't have the same bit. If you go to the adult area, like right like either side, either Cove Cafe or, the side of Cove Cafe that's kind of by dining, where you really just walk into the adult only area, they have these big round like seating areas. My first thing I do when I get on that ship is I head up there and I like stake my claim and I sit down, because I think that spot is so nice. You can just stare out at the ocean. So that's the first thing we did. We sat there, we grabbed some drinks, and then we actually split up for lunch, which I thought was interesting. I stayed and watched the stuff and they all went to cabanas. I was like, you know what? I don't have a burning desire to do cabanas, and we have so much luggage that like was just our hand carried on stuff that I was like, I'll sit here and watch this. I'll grab a burger on the deck. And they all went to cabanas and had a good time. And they were very happy because there were shrimp and crab legs.
Did you or anyone from your party carry on alcohol then?
Yes, we did carry on 8 bottles of alcohol. We had 8 bottles of wine, 7 bottles of champagne. And it was such an easy process. Like we both had like tote bags that were made for wine that made it so easy to carry it on.
Why does that not surprise me that you have a tote bag made for wine available for these cruises?
Correct. Specifically bought for these cruises. But, I think it's like such an easy way to carry it. Like it's heavy. It's not light. I'm carrying 4 bottles. I'm carrying my mom's bottles. So, but
what my family does is we bring a roller suitcase, a mini roller luggage, and then we wrap the bottles in between like a sweatshirt. And if I'm bringing a jug of water, just so we can have a water in the cabin, we shove that in there too and just keep it all on the thing and then roll it through.
That's smart. I should look into that though.
It's literally just your basic carry-on.
Well, you grab your lunch, you hang out at Cove Cafe for a while. Where are you going next on the Fantasy?
We actually went down to our rooms at this point because rooms were ready at 1:30. So by the time we got on, everybody ate. Essentially, it was perfect timing to go down there and check out our rooms for the first time. And again, this was the first time that I had a connecting room with people. So we were excited to check that aspect of it out too.
What did your neighbors think of the cabin? I know sometimes thinking of a hotel or Disney hotel and then moving into a cruise cabin can be very jarring. Now, Disney, I think, is pretty generous with the amount of space you get in comparison to other cruise lines. My first cruise was Carnival, where we put a family of 4 in, and that was pretty wild. What did they think of their cabin and the accommodations?
See, that's why I put them at Pop Century the night before. So you just like, get used to it. No, they absolutely loved it. They walked in and they were like, wait, we're staying here? And I was like, yes, this is your room. And they absolutely loved the veranda. They both said almost immediately before we even did anything, they were like, I will never sail without a veranda. They just really like that aspect of being able to walk outside, which I totally understand. But they were so impressed with their room. They were like, this is stunning.
How did your friends do with motion sickness? Because you mentioned that early on.
Yeah. So I've always used it, like my previous first cruises, I used blisslets, just the little bracelets that you wear. And Carrie had bought them beforehand, but she ended up taking them off by our sea day because she didn't feel like she needed them. So she's somebody that's like very prone to motion sickness in the car, or even just like screen rides. Can't do those either. Won't do Remy. And she had no issues whatsoever. Day 2, she was like, I took them off. I was like, all right, okay, go wild.
That's amazing. Yeah, those Bahamian cruises, once you get out there, they're so calm, especially on a 4-night cruise. You're literally almost going nowhere.
Yeah, I found this was probably the smoothest cruise I've ever been on. It was like glass. You could barely feel the ship moving every once in a while. But in general, I was like, are we moving?
So are you team unpack on a cruise?
They all sat on the balcony and chatted, and I stayed in the room and unpacked. I was like, we'll get to it later. I have to do this immediately. So I sat there, got everything unpacked, got all my little trinkets that I have. Our luggage wasn't there when we got to the room, but I had packed enough in my handbag like that I wanted for when we got to the room. We're able to decorate the doors. I made sure, even though this was their first cruise, they decorated their door. So I had them fully supplied.
So you get accustomed to the room, sit down, relax, do some unpacking. Were you early or late dining for this sailing?
We were late dining.
So where did you head after getting to enjoy the room then?
So we went to the sail away party. I felt like we had to do it. It was actually interesting because we were the only ship in port that day, which I have also never been at Port Canaveral, and us being the only ship. So we were sailing away before the sail away party started because of just how it worked out. So my mom and Max were watching us sail away. And then once the party started, we all watched it and enjoyed our little bit. We got there like 20 minutes before it started and had good viewing area. And then after that, we kind of just took a break before heading up to Meridian before Prima Notte.
And
Pre-gaming
your Prima Notte.
And I have to say, I think that was like the best drink experience I had on this entire cruise, because it was during sunset and it was the most gorgeous sunset I've ever seen. We sat outside. We were the only people outside. So I feel like people really don't go there on day 1. And the sunset was just absolutely stunning. We all just sat there. We're like, this is so beautiful. It's never going to show up on camera. You have to be there to actually experience. It was this beautiful red color and it was the most stunning sunset ever. But we did pregame pray with a cocktail there.
Meridian is such a gem on the Dream of the Fantasy. And its theming is like good but subtle.
Yeah.
And also, typically the bartenders there are top notch.
Oh, they're so good. So good. I mean, I have been on a dirty martini journey and they really came through in Meridian. Like they knew what they were doing.
Well, it sounds like you're really spoiling your neighbors with the experience, because next you have Prima Notte. How was that experience?
Prima Notte was good. I will say we definitely did not read the memo that they pushed to your phone of like dress for Prima Notte, because Max was in shorts and I didn't catch it when we left the room that he was in shorts. So we had been sitting out at Meridian and the host from Palo came in and said, like, you have to change before you go. So he ran back down to the room and put on pants. And I think it's just because I had told him that he could wear shorts to brunch and the excitement's there and it's fine. But they were really nice about it. They asked him if he wanted a pair of pants. And I was like, I feel like you should have said yes to that. I'm curious.
Someone on this podcast has been there.
My husband had to borrow pants on our cruise. Was it the cruise lake that we did together?
That was the wish sailing with everyone.
So it's basically like crew pants, and they just ask your size, and glad to know that the Fantasy is still has pants available.
That's so funny. I also think it's funny that like the men have the dress code there and women can essentially get away with anything.
Almost
like,
anything.
There's nothing women can't do. Like men are the only ones with the dress code there, but I thought it was funny because he had to run down and get pants and then come back and join us. And so he did. But Prima Notte was a really wonderful experience. I know you guys have done it. The wine pairings were great. We had our sommelier was Ken. He was so knowledgeable on everything that he was saying. Just the ability to walk through this entire process and have those light bites with the drinks was phenomenal. But I do have one complaint about Prima Notte this time, and it has nothing to do with the Disney Cruise Line staff. It was the other people that were there. They would not stop talking when Ken was trying to present. And it wasn't like a nice whisper to like the person next to you. It was, I felt like I was having a conversation with them and they were 2 tables over. So Ken was just doing a great job trying to get everybody's attention, but he couldn't. And that's when like Sasha, the manager at Palo, had to come out multiple times. And Sasha he can, really prove his point. But that was the only negative I had, was just other guests. And I think if you're like going to that experience, don't you want to learn those things? I think that's kind of the point of being there. So that was my only negative. But overall, the food was incredible. The gnocco is always my favorite. I love that singular gnocchi. And my neighbors absolutely love this. It was like you pound back so much wine in such a short period of time. Everybody's like, okay, now we got to go to dinner. I'm like, yes. But overall, a great experience. Like, I'm doing it again or at the end of April, and I'm excited to do it again because the staff that we had, our server was Carolina, and she ended up being our server the entire time at Palo, was so good. Still recommend that experience so much, even though everybody was very chatty that evening.
Was it still $100 after tip?
Yeah.
Such a great value for a tasting too, between the food and the drink pairings you get.
Yes.
Well, then it is time for your first rotational dining. Where was your first meal?
Our first meal was down at Enchanted Garden.
So you go from tip of the top fancy meal to Enchanted Garden, which I love. Not ragging on Enchanted Garden. I think it's a lovely space and a lovely menu. How was your meal there?
Honestly, probably the best meal like we had at any rotational dining. It was really good. I believe you've talked about the sea bass. The sea bass was so good. Our server was so funny because we were ordering a lot. I like the fact that on Disney Cruise Line, you can order as much as you want. And I kind of really wanted to do that for the neighbors where they could try all the different types of food. And so we would order 2 like salmon, the ahi tuna towers, and he'd bring out 3, or he'd bring out multiple of anything that you said that you're like, ooh, that sounds really good. He'd always bring in extra. But dinner was really good. The appetizers were really good. I got the soup. That was amazing as well. It's an asparagus soup with crab. I loved it. And then we did get a lot of entrees. We got prime rib, the scallops, and 2 sea basses. And the sea bass is just next level. That light sear on it is light and fluffy. It was so good. I could go back to like Enchanted Garden every single night and be happy with it on a Disney cruise, because I would love to skip Royal Court there. I would skip that every time.
Excuse me.
I'm so sorry. Maybe we could just switch. We go on the same cruise and you could go.
But then you can't get the fried brie.
That's true. But it was a really, really good dinner. It was interesting because we were in the back corner this time. And I've always been in the main like area by the fountains when you walk in. And I kind of liked it, though. It was a little more quiet where we could just talk and enjoy dinner. So despite being in the corner, I really did like it.
Yeah, I've been in that back corner. I enjoy it as well.
It's just nice and quiet back there.
Yeah, that's probably my second favorite menu on Disney Cruise Line.
Yeah.
What's your first favorite?
I think you know my first favorite.
No, now I can't think of it.
1923.
Oh, well, that's everybody's first favorite.
I was still on the fantasy when you said
I was
that.
on the fantasy too, and I'm like, God, we had all those meals, and I don't remember like him saying this is it for me.
Both those menus, though, someone cooked, literally and figuratively.
Yeah,
But-
Frank is coming in with the 30-year-old slang every now and then.
Your second dining, this takes you pretty late into the evening. Did you get up to anything else on your first day?
We did, because I had bookmarked happy hour in the app. I made everybody go through the Navigator app and favorite things that they wanted to do when we were at, like sitting up on the top deck when we got on, because I was like, you guys need to actually look through and see what you want to do. So we actually went down to Ooh La La. It was happy hour. So any of the drinks that are under $20 are 30% off. So a good deal. And we got to listen to live music. The piano player in Ooh La La, I feel, is elite. The piano there is nice. The vibe is great. And we stayed there for all of happy hour and just listened to the piano player. And it was so lovely. It was a great way to end the first night.
Love a night at Ooh La La.
I love that you are such a good little planner that you're like, and we will now look to see what activities we want to do for this cruise.
I'm like,
Her favorites.
Who got a notification that we have something coming up? But
Well-
my neighbors are notoriously known for being late to things or missing things. So, and by neighbors, I just mean Max. He is the sole reason. So I had to make sure I had everybody on a pretty concise schedule to make sure. But I don't let them think that it's like a concise schedule. They think that it's free flowing. It's not.
Little bit into Bethany's mind. I'm like,
You let them think they have control. They don't.
Well, let's move into your next day, which is a day at sea, a full day to finish exploring the fantasy and enjoy everything she has to offer. What did you get up to on this day?
Morning, I just spent, everybody slept in. I did not, but I enjoyed just going up to Cove Cafe, getting my coffee, sitting in the adult area and reading my book. And that's what I did during the entire morning, which was wonderful. I also did make it down for my first merch stop. And that was, well, I guess it was technically my second. I was on a mission to collect all the Disney Cruise Line mystery pins. So that was my second time going shopping just for those and trying to complete the whole set, which I didn't do. And then we had Palo brunch.
Let's get into it.
Okay, but can I say before I say this, if we have listened to any of these episodes with me, we know I love a baby race more than anything. They're my favorite part of Disney Cruise Line. My Palo brunch was at the same exact time as the baby race. And I'm going to choose Palo brunch. But I was so heartbroken that I could not go to the baby races. They like made the announcement. They're like, the baby races start. And I'm like, don't say this. I don't want to know. But we did go to Palo brunch. And again, easy to get them on the reservation this time around. So that was lovely. And went up there and pretty much ordered the entire menu. Like there was we ordered at least one thing from every single section, if not more. And we got to the point where we ordered all of the entrees, but 2. So we started.
Which 2 didn't get picked?
2 didn't get picked were the veal, because Carrie doesn't eat veal. So we're like, let's just skip it. Me and Max are probably the only 2 that would. And the red snapper. She talked us out of that one.
Was there anything you ordered that was new to you that surprised you?
Yes, I have always gotten the Mickey waffle when I have been there because I am a sucker at Palo for a Mickey waffle. We ended up getting the blueberry pancakes this time, and they are the best pancakes I've ever had in my entire life. The blueberries had almost like exploded, and there was just fresh blueberry everywhere. To be honest, like 10 out of 10, the best pancake I've ever had. And another one we got that I really did like were the eggs Benedict, but we did the salmon one that comes with caviar. That was the recommendation from our server, Carolina. And I can't say I'm the biggest smoked salmon fan. I'll eat it. And, I feel like I can tell when it's good. And this was delicious. I could have taken down this whole thing myself. I was like, maybe next time I order my own. So I was pleasantly surprised with that because it's not something I would normally order, but it's something I really, really did love.
So I'm also a brunch waffle fan. I think you shouldn't sleep on those breakfast items. So I'm going to try the pancakes next time.
Do it. They're so good. I was so impressed. And I don't think I'll go back to a waffle next time. I think I'll get pancakes again.
High
and
praise there.
I am a waffle stan at Palo. So just so impressive. And they came with like real maple syrup, fresh whipped cream, even more berries on top. It was wonderful.
So I have a question about the steak, if you remember it all. And I was wondering if that was going to be one of the items that you had left out because we find...
Wait, I don't think we actually got the steak. So maybe we did get 3.
3.
Because we're not going to get 2, the steak and the ossobuco. And then she talked us out of the snapper.
Well, you get stuffed up at Palo brunch. Where are you going to next?
After that, we kind of just took an afternoon of sitting by the pool, relaxing, having a good time. Nothing really crazy. We wanted to go explore. They had discovered Satellite Falls and really liked Satellite Falls. That became like the favorite spot of the entire cruise. So we were up there for a while before getting ready. And this was the only show we went to in the Walt Disney Theater was that night was Frozen.
What'd you think?
Loved it.
What'd your neighbors think?
Loved it. And the best part, Max has never seen Frozen in general, right? And so we go and he sits through it. He gets out of it and he's like, this is so good. I absolutely adored the Elsa that we had. I thought she was wonderful. I've seen Frozen so many times, like Broadway and the touring, and she's one of the best Elsas I've ever seen. At one point, Max was like, she didn't even sing Let It Go. I was like, nope, she definitely did. It was the big thing in the middle. But I thought Frozen was so good. It's one that I will go see every time, even though I've seen it so much. I just think that show is amazing. And the cast this time around was just absolutely phenomenal. I was so impressed with them. And it did make me sad that I missed Aladdin the night before because we had Prima Notte and then went to dinner. So there was just no time for it. But the one thing that I was impressed with about Frozen is they actually had a matinee of it on the show during our day. So a 1 p.m. showing of it. So they actually did it 3 times, which for her to belt that 3 times a day during Let It Go, I'm very impressed with her. But I loved the show. My neighbors loved the show. They were very impressed with the quality of the show on Disney Cruise Line.
So I want to jump to the schedule really quick because you got then the night 1 Aladdin and then night 2 Frozen. What did night 3 and 4 have in the theater?
Night 3 was Pirate Night.
Right.
So nothing was there. And then the last night was Believe.
Well, that takes you to your second rotational dining. This should be Royal Court?
Yes, indeed.
How was that meal? Although we might have already alluded to this a little bit.
No, I mean, here's the thing. I am not the biggest Royal Court fan in general just because of the atmosphere. I feel it's the most cafeteria-like thing on like the Fantasy. However, our meal was really good. The lamb that we had at dinner was phenomenal. Last time I came on here, I had gotten on the Dream after it came back from the transatlantic, and I was really disappointed with the food and rotational dining. I don't think it was that great. And I'm going to say it's because they were coming off the transatlantic. This time I was very impressed by the food in rotational dining. I thought it was so good. The lamb was good. Everything we had was actually really, really delicious. But that was easily the standout on the menu was lamb and the fried brie. Again, another good standout. Things that we'd skip, like the shrimp and things, I just feel like they don't go too hardcore with seasoning and it's kind of really bland. So no one was really impressed with that. But overall, we had a great meal. They really liked Royal Court. And this is when we really got to know our servers. We had Anthony and Harry, and we absolutely loved them. So they were just bringing out food left and right, even though we didn't order it. They were like, you should try this.
I love that.
It was a good meal because I was dreading the next night because I was actually going to Pirate Night. So I have to say, as much as I say that I don't love Royal Court, I was really impressed with the meal.
I love that. Well, what did you all get up to after your meal?
We concluded the night over again at Ooh La La. And it's because we had seen one of the piano players and like nobody was clapping for him. And we are here to, give snaps and support them. And so we tracked him down multiple nights just to go listen. His name's Axel. He was amazing, but he had told us that he was training classical. And this entire night was classical music at Ooh La La. So it was really nice to listen to that. And again, we just had a cocktail in Ooh La La and listened to music. And that's how we concluded our night, which we tried to say we were going to bed early, but I can't say we really did.
I mean, it's hard to go to bed early when your dinner starts at 8:15.
It's true. And lasts almost 2 hours every time. So it's rough.
Well, you wake up the next day and it is time for your first private island experience. Was this Lookout?
Yes.
So this is your first time to Lookout. What were your expectations?
I will say I didn't have the highest expectations because I think a lot of people on the internet haven't been very nice about the island. So I was like, you know what? If I set the bar low and I say it's not going to be as great as Castaway, I'm going to enjoy anything that I get up to. So we had an all ashore at 8:30. And again, I will let everybody sleep in. You'll see, especially the Castaway day. But I was like, everybody up and at it. Like nobody is going to be late. We are off this ship the second they say we can be off this ship. And we pretty much were right away. And one thing, like we traveled with my mom. My mom is 69. Like she will say this every time. I asked her if she wanted me to set up like the accommodations on the dock because a lot of people said that's, the pier is so long. And she was like, no, I'm good. And she was good the whole time. Like it was very impressive. And she's not like, my dad's the one that runs stairs. My mom doesn't. So I was actually impressed. We pulled up and I looked and I was like, I really expected that pier to be a lot longer than it is. And I didn't feel like it was as bad. And even if, you have mobility needs, Disney had so many accommodations for that I found that I was like, okay, so they are making the accommodations if they need to be there. And then we got off and took that walk down the pier. And it was just so pretty that I feel that walk is great because it lets you admire how beautiful that island is, like right when you get off. And I was impressed.
I would never call that walk short by any means, but I do think when you're standing on top of your ship and you're taking a photo with your wide angle lens, like, yes, it is going to look a mile long and it is, a good part of half a mile, but it doesn't always feel as long once you get out there. How was the weather?
The weather was like perfect. We had probably like upper 70s and blue skies and sunny. So walking that, I could say during the summer, I could understand why it'd get really hot and that walk would be a lot harder. But since the weather was really great, it was definitely easier for us too. Like the weather was absolutely perfect.
Man, all aboard or all ashore time at 8:30 is really early for that island because they have to lug everything out there. And they have to do that in the like trucks and everything before they let the people out. So that is an early day for the crew also. So you did share some of what you did on your stories, but I seem to recall there was a trying out every bar.
Yeah, we hit almost every bar, but we were like, let's hit the entire bar menu. We ended up finding a spot on the adult beach. It's definitely like significantly different than going to Castaway, where we actually just sat on the other side of the family beach in the adult area. So the kids kind of floated towards us, even though we were in the adults only area, which was fine. Like we didn't have a problem with it. But if, you don't want to be around kids, go to the far end of the beach is what I would suggest. But we decided to hit up drinks early at 8:30, 9:30 in the morning. We were getting our first cocktail.
And I guess I should have went back in time because what were your first impressions?
I thought it was absolutely beautiful and very colorful. I didn't expect it to be that like vibrant in real life. And everywhere you looked was just really colorful. I know a lot of people have said like the vegetation's not that grown, but I really loved the boardwalk. I found it easier, especially for like my mom, to walk to the further point in the beach, because if we try to do Serenity Bay over at Castaway, you have to walk down the sand, and it's definitely a lot harder. But with this, you have the boardwalks everywhere. You get to that like Goombay Cultural Center, and it's just really pretty. I just thought it was very, very vibrant. And then you take a look at the water and you're like, I will be in that all day. Like the water there is truly stunning. And I have had a lot of friends that said the water is just next level, and they were not joking. You walk out into it and it is truly something that's a little rougher than Castaway, but the water's so much more clear. And I just found it easier to just relax in it than Castaway, even though it's a tad bit rougher.
Yeah, a little more open to the elements there, but such a beautiful beach.
But we did hit the bars after that, and we went, and I decided we should try almost every drink on the menu, including the zero proof for my mother. And you know what I was really surprised by? The amount of like ube that's in cocktails there. A lot of the cocktails on their menu had ube, and I did not really expect that, because to me that doesn't really say like Bahamian Islands. But overall, very impressed with all of the cocktails there, and impressed that they had Dole Whip cocktails as well.
What was your favorite?
I think my favorite was actually the Eleuthera Euphoria, which is essentially rum with Dole Whip pineapple. Loved it.
Was it the same drink menu at every bar?
Yes.
Okay, so you just had to pick a bar and then...
Correct. I think when we went to the family-friendly bars, they had a few more non-alcoholic options there. Like the coffees and stuff weren't on the menu at the adults-only area. I don't know if you could ask for them, because they did have I could see they had the coffee maker there, so you probably could have, but I didn't actually inquire about that one. But grabbed our drinks and got in the ocean and spent a lot of time there until it was lunchtime.
And did you eat in the adults True Two?
I think it's just Serenity Bay barbecue again.
You know, that makes sense. We ate in the adults only area. One thing that I was surprised by is in the serving area, the fly problem is back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I expected none, because everybody kind of had said it's gone away. And I don't know if the weather's getting warm or what, but there was definitely a lot of flies just in the serving area. But when you went to eat, like we ate around the same area, there were no flies anywhere. So they're now just, contained in that area. But I was highly impressed with the food on this island. I think it's better than Castaway, in my opinion. I loved everything we got. Like the homemade salads I thought were really good. I got a fried chicken sandwich that was delicious as well. Overall, just really good. And there was a lot of seating, and it was like shaded. So that was lovely as well.
The adults only barbecue area, are there still stations for everything? So like the True Twos all have stations. Like if you want a hot dog, you have to, I don't even know if they have hot dogs, but you have to go up to this certain area. If you want a chicken sandwich, it's like a whole separate line.
So there's two sides, but it's one line for each side. And all of like the food and salads are up there, and then the fruits and desserts are in a different area. But they also had cast members there helping you, that you like got up and they're like, let me serve your plate for you, like standing on the like your side of the serving area. And so they would help you if you wanted to fix your plate. So that was nice too. A very good lunch. I was very impressed with the island food. I was like, okay, I don't know if it's that I've been to Castaway, so I've had it multiple times, and you kind of whatever, but I was very impressed with the food there.
And then what'd you do after lunch?
After lunch, enjoyed some time in the water, and then we all went to do Junkanoo.
Oh, nice.
And we looked on the schedule where I had everybody's favorite things, and they had like the cultural representative talking about Junkanoo. So we went and did that for 45 minutes before we ended up going to the second parade, just because I had heard it was less crowded. And we went and listened to the history of Junkanoo, and we all made headpieces. Which, let me tell you, getting adults to craft, I am a crafty person, so I was down for it. Getting my 3 friends that don't enjoy crafting, it was a struggle, but everybody made their little hats, and everybody was like, I want to throw them away at the end. But they all took photos in them, and they all liked them, so that is what matters. But it was a nice little activity, and it's in the shade, so that's lovely. And then we got to go and watch the entire Junkanoo celebration, which was so much fun. They know how to have a party.
I do feel like, though, the distance between the adult-only beach, Serenity over there, and where Junkanoo is a bit of a hike. Did you all hike back then afterward to the adult-only section, or did you stay on that part of the beach for the remainder of your time there?
We did hike back, but we were on the part that was closest to the family beach. So it was like the first turnout. So if we had gone further, I think it would have been more of a hike to get back there. but we kind of like planned it right that we knew we could go back and spend some more time in the water because the water was just so nice that we didn't want to not have one final moment in it before leaving.
So
Did you
nice.
basically close out the island then?
Yes. I was like, we're staying as late as possible. And then we got to the point where we wanted to go get some merch because there's a lot of like island exclusive merch there. I'm on my pin collecting era, so I wanted to go get pins. And so we went back and did that and got to the ship, probably got on, dropped our stuff in our room. And then we got back to the deck to watch us pull away. And we probably waited 10 minutes before we started pulling away.
What time was that all aboard?
That was at 4:30.
Good
Wow.
full day at Lookout.
Yeah.
Mhm. We were all tired after we got back on.
So you spent an entire day and it was your first time. Do you have any tips that you would offer now, having been on the island, for future new Lookout visitors?
I think one of the top tips is get off the ship early and get a spot on the beach, because we had run into people that we had like in the adults only area that we had seen on the ship, and they waited a while to get off and they actually couldn't get a spot on the beach. They were in there's like the set of chairs behind that aren't on the beach. I feel that it's so beautiful there. You need to really just like be in the sand by the water. So my advice would be get off early. And 2 is to like do things like junk canoe. I think it could be easy to skip them, especially when you're further down. You can't really, people are like, you can really hear everything. And I'm like, you can't really hear that much. I had no idea the first junk canoe show had happened. I think going down for those little things are great. And it's like a great touch where I feel this island was very like Bahamian to me. Like the colors were very bright with very subtle touches of Disney, while Castaway is very like in your face Disney. And I really enjoyed the contrast of the 2 islands. And I loved just like the overall vibe there. It just everything felt so crisp. I don't know how else to describe it. Like you looked at like the sign, it just looked crisp. Everything, the way that, all the little like character heads are done in the style of like the junk canoe, everything just looked crisp and beautiful and colorful. So I really enjoyed the contrast of the 2 islands, but I would say get there early and don't miss like the Bahamian features of the island, because Castaway has none of that.
So you mentioned when I asked about expectations that you had set them kind of on the lower side. Do you feel like that met your expectations or exceeded them or fell below?
I think it fully exceeded my expectations. Like I was so impressed with Lighthouse. I think that as it continues to, like as it is, I was already impressed. But as it continues to, really find itself, I think it's easily going to be my favorite island. My mom has already said it's her favorite. She was like, we got off. She was like, better than Castaway, like 100%. And I do think that like mobility wise, that definitely helps with her of like walking the boardwalk and having the easy things to do. But she just loved the overall vibe and she loved the water. I have never had her in the water that much at Castaway as she was at Lighthouse. She just loved it.
That water on a good weather day is so good. It's just so stunning and so relaxing.
Yep. And it's a shame because I feel like a lot of my friends too had gone in like November and December and didn't have great weather days on the island. And
Really
to that,
bad.
Yeah. Like when my friends Cody and David did, they had a black flag warning. They couldn't even go in the water. And I was like, that is a shame because it was so nice. But now they're excited and they're like, why is the only cruise we have booked is the Treasure? We're not even going back there. And I was like, time to book another one.
Yeah, my friends went in November, December. Also the same situation. They had it where the beach chairs were under sand because the weather had blown so much that the sand covered all of the beach chairs just in like the time that they had set them up. Yeah, it was.
That's crazy.
Well, turning back towards getting back on the ship, you said you headed up to the top decks. What did you get up to before dinner time?
We all took a nap because it was well needed. And then we got ready because it was pirate night.
All right, Mary Badbone's favorite time.
Oh my God.
I just called her Mary all night long, so I really appreciate it.
That is still a peak podcast moment for me.
Unfortunately, no one went to Bippity Boppity Boutique this time, which, I had my own Bippity Boppity Boutique. I was like putting glitter on everybody. We also upgraded to temporary tattoos this time. So I had like neck tattoos, which, hindsight was a bad decision because they didn't come off easily. Like I'm like scrubbing with waterproof makeup remover, nothing. But pirate night, I appreciated my neighbors being there because they were down to go hardcore for the pirate theme. And so we caught the first part of the like Mickey deck party. We didn't watch the whole thing. We didn't have the best view. And to be honest, like we're all adults. So I was like, you'll like the later one better anyway. So went and grabbed a drink before heading off to dinner.
And what did you think of the pirate night menu?
I said, I'm never going back again. I am like, I really tried to give it the benefit of the doubt. There's a few things that I really like about rotational dining menus that just don't happen for me there. One is I like a good soup, and I think the soups on Pirate Night aren't great. I think they have like a carrot soup, which I'm very much convinced is just like baby food. It's so thick. And then they have a mango, like chilled mango soup, which is just a smoothie. And then overall, like food wise, I got the lamb, which I have to say was good. But lamb's not my go-to order. So like I wouldn't come back for that necessarily because it's just not what I would order, but it was delicious. But overall, for me, that menu is like a skip. I just feel like it falls flat. And I was like, I will be booking Palo next time or getting room service. But I do like, you go down there and your servers are all dressed up for Pirate Night. So they really were, since we were dedicated, they were really getting behind the whole thing. But overall, that menu, I just feel if Disney wants to redo it, I wouldn't be mad.
I think very few would be. This tends to be a Palo dinner night for many. Probably the hardest night to get Palo dinner because it's when everybody wants it.
It's true. But I'm glad I did it because I had a lot of people that had like messaged me and said, oh, the lamb's really good. You should go do it. And the jerk chicken was good as well. But like, we also got like the Treasure of the Sea pasta that had all the different, like scallops, and it was just boring. And that was also the night that they have that. It's like the vegetarian stir fry dish. That's just like boring. There's not a lot of flavor to it. I just expect more flavor on like Pirate Night. Overall, I will be booking Palo or ordering room service for the rest of my Pirate Nights.
Well, after dinner, it is time for fireworks at sea. What did your neighbors think of that whole show and party and the fireworks?
They loved it. It's funny because I had actually told them a few weeks ago I've never seen Pirates of the Caribbean, which was like enough to like end our friendship. I know. So we watched it a few weeks ago and they absolutely loved like the whole like Jack interaction. They thought it was so much fun. And then I genuinely I think they said they've never been that close to fireworks in their entire life because I always stand like on the port side of the ship or on the starboard side of the ship. So you're right underneath them and they're in your face. And we had such a good time like watching those fireworks and they were so impressed. And one of the things that they like pointed out is like, look at all the cruise ships around us watching them. And I thought it's such a little interesting tidbit that happens, but they loved the fireworks. And I think that's just like the elite way to end Pirate Night. We were all dressed up with our tattoos and it just concluded to be such a good night of sitting there and watching fireworks before heading off to bed. But they loved it. And they're like, it's to music. And I was like, it's Disney. What do you expect?
Aww.
So they had a great time and we all had a wonderful time listening or watching the fireworks.
Love that. Well, it sounds like that takes us into your last full day, and this is Castaway.
Yeah. Castaway was an interesting one. We went to bed. All ashore is actually at 7:30. So even earlier. And it was our favorite day at Cabana's, Churro Waffle Day.
Yes.
So I had told everybody we're out by 7 a.m. in order to go get churro waffles to make it off at 7:30. I was the only one. No one. I got a text at 7 that was like, hey, we're just going to sleep in a little bit and we'll meet you over at Castaway later, which is fine. I don't mind like going and doing things by myself. So I went up to Cabana's, had churro waffles for breakfast, and then all ashore ended up being at like 7:15. Like they were
That's insane.
prepped and ready to go early. It was crazy. So I was sitting on the balcony of Cabana's and I saw them walking off and I was like, time to go. Walk down to my favorite little family section of the beach. I like sitting in the family area first, like past the sandbar right before the Cabanas. I think there's a little like cove that has some great shade there. And I spent the morning there and then I realized, yeah, they're not coming anytime soon. So I decided to give myself like a grand tour of the island, which was great because I got to go and film a ton of content and like really explore everything. But went over, explored the family area, went over to the adults only area, went like almost all the way back to the ship because Donald Duck was meeting. So I met Donald, met Pluto. And then by about 11:30, 11:45, that is when the rest of the group joined me. So I had like 4 hours of like pure bliss out on the island by myself. I was not mad. They all like felt bad. And I was like, I had a great morning. I don't know about you. But like, there's no way I'm going to be staying in my room when I could be on an island. Time is fleeting at Castaway, you know? So they got out there. We kind of all just set down our stuff. And then we all went over to Serenity Bay to have lunch because we wanted to get the steak there. So we decided to head over there and also like not eat with kids since we don't have kids. And we had a really good lunch, came back, spent a little bit of time in the water. They really liked Castaway. Again, it's like a different vibe. I feel it's a very more like lazy vibe than what we were doing over at Lookout. And so spent some time in the water. Then we had to get back to the ship because we had our one tasting, which was mixology.
Before we leave the island, you had mentioned being impressed about the Lookout food. How did you feel like the Castaway food had compared to it this time?
I actually thought the food was really good. It like good standard barbecue. The ribs were delicious. I don't know. It's again because I've had it so many times that the change was welcome and I enjoyed it. But I also think that Lookout has more variety and and Castaway just has, your basic barbecue foods. And it seemed a little more sophisticated over there, but overall the food itself was delicious. We really enjoyed lunch. And we got to see our assistant server, Harry. He was working and we love that. He sat there and talked and we learned all about his Disney journey. So that was really nice as well.
I know for me, especially when you're booking Bohemian sailings and you have multiple ships, Castaway feels like the comfort food almost because it's like the one item that's going to stay the same regardless of what ship you're on.
Yeah, it's very true. And it's good. It's not like Pirate Night. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed. Well, how was mixology?
Pirate Night.
Yeah, Pirate Night. But they offer so many other things. They got fireworks. So, we take it for what it is. Mixology was great. It was in Meridian. All Ashore was at 4 and this was at 4. So same exact time. We went up there. I will say there was not like a lot of people that wanted to volunteer in the class. So I'm here to volunteer. I will make you a drink. But it was like a good walkthrough. We really enjoyed it. I can't say it was like crazy different like mixology drinks, but it was fun to walk through it. And our bartender had actually worked on the Wonder. And one of the drinks we made is a drink he made on the Wonder. So I thought that was kind of cool to kind of incorporate a different Disney ship in there. But overall, it was a good like mixology class and led us right into the perfect afternoon nap,
Well, you take your nap. Did that take you into dinner or did you do anything else before that?
Just some shopping. We didn't actually do anything crazy because we were at Palo for dinner that night. And we originally had an 8:30 reservation and they had called us the day before to ask if we were willing to move it up. So, and I think it's because at brunch, we were the last table there where we were just chatting. And they were like, this is the latest dinner reservation. They're like, we got to move those people up. They're going to sit there and chat way too long. So we ended up moving it up to 8. And we ended up actually going back up to Meridian and having a drink before dinner because we loved the one bartender there. So we wanted to see them before we had dinner.
And how was your dinner?
Amazing. I feel like Palo dinner is elite. It was actually nice because essentially what we did is just shared everything, like us and the neighbors. And that ended up working really well. At the end of the night, they just split the bill in half, which was like exactly what we needed because we essentially shared everything. We kind of tried to dabble in on a lot of different things. So when it came to like pizza, it's 8 slices of pizza. There are 4 of us. So we did a half and half pizza, like the sausage pizza, but we had to do the grape pizza because they had to try it, So, and then, or we did a burrata pizza and then we did that. And then we essentially just had a bunch of other items. We got 3 of the pasta dishes. And our server was so lovely and split all the pasta dishes between us. So she took charge of, does everybody want even portions? And it was a nice way to do it where everybody wasn't battling over the lobster tail. So that's good. And we really didn't eat a ton for dinner. We, I think, only ended up with 1 entree because we were so full. We ended up getting the sole because it's a classic, which was phenomenal as usual.
And dessert, how did you guys do dessert?
We got both of the souffles. Also, can we refresh back to brunch? Because, what is your favorite dessert there?
So both menus, dinner and brunch, have a panna cotta.
I had it for the first time because I remember you saying that. I was like, I am confident this is and that is the best dessert at brunch. I don't know if I can slay. It is so freaking good. We were actually fighting over it. It was straight up us fighting over it. But we were also full, but fighting over it.
Yeah. I get annoyed often at panna cotta being my dessert as a gluten-free person. Give me something more. But no, give me that panna cotta all day long. I don't need it to be more exciting. It is so delightful.
It is amazing. It is one of the best desserts I've ever had. It is so light and the boba in there, the popping pearls work so well. I had never been more impressed. I was like, okay, next time I will order this. I will not eat as much in my meal and I will get my own at the end of the day because it was an excellent dessert. But going back to dinner, we did get both the souffles because I felt that was only fitting. You have to do both of them. And we were a split 50-50 table on what one we liked more, the almond or the chocolate.
Interesting.
So I'm an almond girly.
Okay.
I think the chocolate one's a little too rich for me. I like the like coffee ice cream that comes with the almond one. So.
Well, same question from brunch then. Was there anything new you tried at dinner that surprised you?
I don't think we ordered anything new at dinner. just because I had my staples that I knew I really liked and I wanted them to try it, but we were slowly like full and struggling. You know, you're on day like one of this trip so far. We were struggling. So I don't think there was anything new we actually tried, which kind of is disappointing, but at the same time, you know, it is what it is. But brunch had so many impressive things that I wasn't mad.
Love it. Well, sadly, this is your final evening. What did you get up to?
We went and did watch a little more piano that night. Our favorite piano player, unfortunately, however, was not playing. He had the night off. So good for him. I love that. And then we all went back to the room and packed because I was on like a 10-day trip. So the amount of stuff that I had was pretty ridiculous. So we just went back and packed. We did pack before we went to Palo too, since luggage had to be out by 10:30. And we didn't think we would make it. And thank goodness we did, because we did not make that. But went and packed and called it a night. We sat out on the balcony for a bit because we did still have some champagne to make it through. We did not make it through all the champagne, which is criminal, but you know, we tried.
You see, had a Disney trip that you could have the rest of it at?
Exactly. We had the start of Flower and Garden, so it was a nice.
Before we get into that, I do have a couple more questions, and these will not be my usual questions because I tailored these ones to a couple things that popped up during our chat here. My first one is the Dirty Martini ratings. You are a Dirty Martini girly. Where did you find your best one?
The best one is at Skyline, and that has consistently been on the Dream and the Fantasy. Skyline makes a really good Dirty Martini. My Jersey neighbors hate olives, hate them. They both tried the one at Skyline and said it was good. And a very close second is up at Meridian. Felice, the bartender there, made me a very good Dirty Martini as well. And they have like blue cheese olives everywhere on the ship. So very impressed. I can't say consistently, though, the only bad Dirty Martinis I've had has been at both Piazza and the, what is it on the Dream, the D Lounge or the District?
Yes.
Yeah.
Both of them have not been great consistently. But I will tell you right now, Skyline makes an excellent Dirty Martini.
My next question for you, pretty typically it is you and your mother sailing, but now you have some first-time cruisers. Did you feel like you were doing things different from your normal flow and able to kind of like host their experience or curate their experience?
Yeah, and I it was nice, but also it was nice to travel with people that I have traveled with a lot before. Like we've done multiple Disney trips, so I kind of know like what they like to do at this point. So they are very different in things that they enjoy doing from my mom. Like my mom's not the one that wants to go to the bar all the time or, you know, just so it was nice to kind of have that different bit of Disney. And I still think my mom really enjoyed it. She joined us for almost everything. And I think she enjoyed the little bit of change that we did see this time. But it'll be interesting because my next cruise, my mom's not on and it's just me and my friends. So we shall see how that goes. And they are not bringing their kids. So that's probably going to be a little crazy. But it was nice to be able to cater to them, but also still everybody enjoyed what we were doing.
A variety of who you sail with can definitely be a lot of fun. Gets you to do different things each time and gets you to experience different things. Well, my last question for you before we leave the ship here. Of course, you already mentioned hosting your neighbors for their first cruise. But then you also are a content creator. You spend a lot of time on board creating content, talking about different foods and different experiences. But then also, this is a vacation. Like, do you ever feel any kind of like constraint balancing all three of those on those cruises? I feel like sometimes you get so wrapped up in like, oh, I got to film this, I got to film that. And then other times you're like, I do not want to film right now.
Oh, for sure. And I like listen to it too. And I read the vibe of the people I'm with. Like the people that I'm with fully understand that like I do this and I create content. But when we booked this cruise, it was going to be like my content free cruise. I wasn't going to post anything. I wasn't going to like keep my phone. But then as we got closer to sailing, they had like watched like my YouTube videos and other YouTube videos. And they were like, we kind of want that memory of being on the ship. So it turned into something where they were like, turn the camera on. I got to say something. Like they became like those people, which was great. You know, they've traveled with me so many times, especially to Disney. And the first time we traveled to Disney, I wasn't really creating content like I am now. So they get the overall vibe. But it's funny because even when we went to Disney World in October, they said the same thing, like, let's not film. And then they're like, let's film a video. So I think it's like kind of a turnaround, but it's definitely like an interesting balance, but there's also times that you just have to tell yourself, like, turn off the camera and have fun. Because when we were at like at Lookout, I just sat in the water for 4 hours. So there's no content from that, you know? But I think finding a balance, and then especially if you're traveling with people and you're creating content, is just like realizing that everybody is paying to go on a vacation and you don't want to ruin their vacation experience by just like filming them in their face the whole time. But also, like, I'm on vacation, even though it's not really like a crazy, like, this is so relaxing. So just finding the balance. But they were very enthused to create content more than I thought they would be. Because they were like, you're going to leave your phone in your room and you only get a Polaroid camera. I was like, what is this? But they ended up loving it. So they will watch the first vlog and I think they'll be very happy.
Love that. Well, it is sadly disembarkation day, but you do have a bit of a post-stay. How was your disembarkation process? And we already discussed you do head to Walt Disney World. What transportation did you use and how was that?
Yeah, our scheduled breakfast was at 8. However, we didn't go because we were headed back to Walt Disney World and going to do brunch at Plancha over at the Four Seasons. So we were like, let's skip our breakfast. We were out of the room by 8, and by 7:45, every single luggage tag had been called. So once we were downstairs at 8, the line wasn't even that long. We probably were 10 people deep in line, got in line, hit the motor coach, took the motor coach back. I was staying at Port Orleans Riverside, took it right to there, got off and checked our luggage. It was so easy, and left our luggage with bell service and then got to go about our day. The most easy day to get off the ship that I've probably ever had, with 10 people in line before us. So
Nice.
not a single person in the passport line either. So it was great.
Love that. How was your stay at Port Orleans?
It was lovely because it was Mardi Gras. So they were very enthusiastic for the week with all the different things there. We got to watch the parade and have the Mardi Gras party. It was, I mean, I really like that area. I think if you're looking for a relaxing thing that's not Disney in your face, it's a great resort to stay at. We always have a car, so bus transportation's never really the issue. And then we got to kick off the first day of Flower and Garden Festival. So that was fun.
Love that. What's your one recommendation from Flower and Garden?
One is the seafood bake that's over at the new like yacht and beach club places. And then I know Christy had it, but we had very different looking ones, was the poutine. Yeah.
Okay.
Or if they Provence.
Provence. That's it. Okay. Like the Provence cheese poutine or whatever.
Yeah. A lot of good food at this year's festival, though. A lot of good gluten-free food, too.
So much good gluten-free food. The avocado toast is not gluten-free, but they will get you a new container and make it for you on a plate, and you can bring your own purse bread. But the avocado toast at the place over by Test Track, that looked amazing. Everybody that I saw eating it on my walk to the Odyssey this past week, I was like, that looks like a great dish.
There's a lot of great dishes, though.
Yeah, a lot of great dishes. Yeah, do you try everyone just about, right?
2 days, lots of dishes. I even circled back to some of them, but somebody said that all 5 of my top items were gluten-free. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty cool.
they were good.
Sadly, all trips must come to a close and you head back home. Before I take us out, first time cruises with your neighbors, are they planning a second cruise? What is next for them? And then what is next for you?
When we were on there, I was like, hey, so if you go in the app, so they already bought their placeholder. So I know I have converted them and, they did not know if they would like it. They have already bought their placeholder. I do think the next sailing for them, just because of their dogs and boarding their dogs, will either be San Diego or Alaska, like a 5-night out of Alaska. So that's on it. And then I am back on the Fantasy at the end of April, doing the same exact itinerary with my podcast mates. So excited to go do that with them. That's our first cruising together. So we're excited.
We are definitely excited to hear about that one, as I think your podcast mates are as well. Well, before we close it out, Bethany, once again, where can our listeners follow you?
Yeah, you can find me anywhere on social media. I am Bethany Vinton.
And Christy, where can our listeners follow you?
You can find me all over the internet at Pack Your Pixie Dust. And if you want some assistance booking your next Disney vacation, please reach out. You can go to my website, packyourpixiedust.com. There's a contact me page, and it also just includes my business phone number and email address. And where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram and YouTube at MouseGen. Well, Bethany, thank you again so much for coming on and sharing you, your mother, and your neighbor's experience on the Disney Fantasy. We are certainly looking forward to having you back on here in just a few weeks, basically, to discuss a similar sailing. Well, that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Well, that's going to wrap up the show. Once again, we want to thank Bethany Vinton for coming on and sharing her experience on the Disney Fantasy. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We would also like to thank our Patreons who help make the show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.